Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going on a journey to unravel India's judicial system. We're going to break down everything, from the very first document that gets filed to the final decision, giving you a clear roadmap of how the whole thing works. So, let's jump right in.
You've heard it a million times in movies, right? That dramatic line, "I'll see you in court." But what does that actually mean? What happens next? What journey does a legal fight really take? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out.
So, the first thing you've got to know is that India has a single, unified court system. Now, that's pretty important. Unlike some countries that have separate court systems for national laws and state laws, India has one integrated structure that handles both, with the Supreme Court sitting right at the very top of the pyramid.
Okay, so the structure itself is unified, but this is where it gets interesting. Once a legal case begins, it almost always heads down one of two very different paths. Think of it like a fork in the road right at the start of the legal journey.
And here are those two paths. On one side, you have civil law. This is all about disputes between people or companies. Things like property arguments, family matters, or someone breaking a contract. The goal here isn't to send someone to jail. It's usually about getting compensation or making someone do something they promised to do. But on the other side, you've got criminal law. This is totally different. This is for when someone has broken a law of the land, an act that's considered a crime against society itself. And here, the goal is punishment, to maintain law and order.
All right, let's take a walk down that first path, the civil one. We're going to follow a typical lawsuit from the very beginning all the way to the end.
A civil case isn't just chaos, it follows a pretty clear set of steps. It all kicks off when one person files a formal complaint, which is called a plaint. The court then sends out an official notice, a summons to the other person. After that, both sides get to present their case and their evidence, and all of that leads to the judge's final judgment in the court's official order called the decree.
So what in the world is a plaint? Well, you can think of it as the opening chapter of the whole legal story. It's the official document where the person who feels they've been wronged, they're called the plaintiff, lays out their entire case. They explain what happened, why they think the other person is at fault, and exactly what they want the court to do about it.
So once that plaint is filed, the court issues a summons. And this is a really crucial step for fairness. It's the court's official way of telling the other party, the defendant, hey, a case has been filed against you and you need to show up and respond. It's the system's golden rule, really, to make sure everyone gets a chance to tell their side of the story.
And after all the arguments are made and the evidence is seen, we finally get to the end. Think of it this way. The judgment is the part where the judge explains why they made their decision. And the decree, that's the formal, legally binding order that says what has to happen next. Like, you must pay this person this much money.
All right, we've seen the civil side. Now, let's switch gears completely and head over to the criminal path. And trust me, it's a whole different ballgame. See, the criminal journey doesn't start with a person filing a complaint. Nope. It kicks off with the police filing a report called an FIR. That one document triggers a full-blown police investigation. If they find enough evidence, the court then officially frames the charges against the person accused. And only then does the actual trial begin, leading, eventually, to a final judgment.
That starting block for any serious criminal case is the FIR, the First Information Report. This document is literally the starting gun for the entire criminal justice race. As soon as the police get information about a serious crime, they log this report and the investigation officially gets rolling. But here's the thing. Whether it's a civil or a criminal case, the story doesn't always end with that first verdict. Not by a long shot. A whole new journey can begin after the judgment is handed down.
Which, of course, brings up the big question. What if you lose? What happens if you are absolutely convinced the court just got it wrong? Well, the system actually has a really important process built in for just that scenario.
This is where the court hierarchy really comes into play. You can think of it like a ladder. Most cases start on the bottom rung in the subordinate courts. If one of the parties isn't happy with that decision, they can climb the ladder and appeal to the next level up, the high court for that state. And in some very important cases, there's one final step on the ladder, an appeal to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the entire country. And that whole process is called an appeal. Now, it's not a brand new trial. Instead, it's a review. The higher court looks at what the lower court did to see if any legal mistakes were made. It's like a crucial quality check, a safety net built into the system to make sure justice is served correctly.
Okay, so we've covered the main highways of the justice system. But what about the express lanes? Not every legal problem fits neatly into those traditional civil or criminal boxes. Some issues are so complex they need a faster, more specialized approach.
Because let's be real, modern life is complicated. Think about disputes over environmental rules or complex company laws. These things require deep, expert knowledge. And the traditional court system, which is already swamped with cases, isn't always the best place to get a quick and expert answer.
And this is where tribunals come in. Think of them as special courts for special problems. For example, you've got the National Green Tribunal just for environmental cases. You have the National Company Law Tribunal for corporate fights. The key thing is, these tribunals are staffed not just by judges, but also by experts from those specific fields.
So what's the whole point of these tribunals? Well, it pretty much boils down to one word: efficiency. They're designed to be less formal, less expensive, and way faster than the regular courts. And that speed is absolutely critical. In a business dispute, a delay could bankrupt a company. In an environmental case, a quick decision could stop permanent damage. It's all about getting quick, expert-led justice. And the evolution doesn't just stop with tribunals. We have to talk about tech. The entire system is getting a massive digital upgrade thanks to something called the eCourts project. We're talking about digitizing records, filing cases online, and even holding virtual hearings. The goal is to make the entire justice system more open, more efficient, and easier for every single citizen to access.
So that leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future. We've seen the traditional legal highways and these new specialized express lanes. As our world keeps getting more complex and more digital, could these faster, expert-driven systems actually become the new normal for how we do justice? It's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey today.